Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at Giacomo Casanova. History's most famous, lover, seducer. But we're kind of flipping the script on him.
Yeah, completely. Because when you hear Casanova, you instantly think fleeting affairs, right? Manipulation, maybe even cold, calculated seduction.
Yeah.
The ultimate Playboy image.
Exactly. Conquest, not commitment. That's the shorthand.
But, that traditional take, the simple view, our source material really argues that it misses something deep, something maybe even useful.
Which sounds pretty provocative. I mean, can the methods of the Casanova actually offer real principles for building love that lasts?
That's the core question we're digging into. It's fascinating.
So that's our mission here. We're taking his, let's call them strategies for getting attention, creating intrigue, that kind of emotional capture. And we're stripping away the, let's be honest, often manipulative intent. We want to look at them as maybe powerful tools of emotional intelligence, maybe even authenticity.
Right. Moving from what the source calls cold seduction, which is that classic image, to something more like a warm, intentional craft, building a real connection.
Because the idea is, underneath all the scandal and the legend, there was this guy who had an almost clinical, practical understanding of what people desire, how attention works, and crucially, how emotional connection happens.
Exactly. So we've distilled all that down. We've got 4 core principles, things you can actually use if you want to create a bond where, both partners really thrive, not just for a few months, but like long-term, decades even.
Okay. But there has to be a catch, right? The sources hit us with a pretty big warning straight away.
Oh, yeah. A crucial one. These principles. They're powerful. And they're powerful because they tap into really deep psychological needs. So you absolutely have to use them responsibly with, as the source material puts it, a pure heart.
Meaning if your goal is just control or manipulation,
it backfires massively. The betrayal. If someone feels manipulated using these deep tools, it's catastrophic. It just won't work in the long run. Authenticity is key.
Got it. Okay, so 4 principles. What are they? Give us the overview.
Okay, so we've broken it down into 4 main pillars.
Yeah.
First up, selective honesty. Sounds weird, but it actually builds trust. We'll unpack that.
Interesting. Okay.
Second, total presence. Making your partner feel like uniquely seen and valued.
Which is huge in today's world.
Totally. Third, the power of mystery. Keeping things intriguing, alive, not letting it get stale.
Okay.
And finally, number 4, the dance of passion and depth. This is about the rhythm, the balance between excitement and, profundity. Making sure the love is thrilling, but also really grounded.
Selective honesty, total presence, mystery, and the dance of passion and depth. Okay. Yeah. That's a lot to cover. Let's dive into the first one. Principle 1, the gift of selective honesty. That name itself, it raises eyebrows, right?
It really does. People hear selective honesty and they immediately think, oh, great. So I just tell half-truths. Only the good stuff.
Good cherry picking.
But that's absolutely not it. The definition here is really specific. Selective honesty isn't about lying. It's not about omitting huge important facts. It's about strategically revealing a carefully chosen glimpse of your humanity.
A glimpse of your humanity. Okay, unpack that. What's the goal there?
The goal is actually pretty profound. It's about getting past those natural defenses we all have, the walls we put up.
Sure.
And it's about making your partner feel uniquely chosen. Like you're giving them special access, a private view of the real, complex you. The aim is basically instant, high-quality intimacy.
Okay, and this ties into something the sources found really surprising, didn't it? Because a lot of advice tells you to project this perfect image, right? Polished, got it all together.
Exactly. But this argues the opposite. The fastest way to someone's heart, it's not showing off your perfection. It's vulnerability.
Which feels counterintuitive. We're often taught, especially maybe in dating, that vulnerability is weakness.
Right. But the argument here is, when you deploy it intentionally, and crucially sincerely, sharing a genuine flaw, or maybe a small fear, that's actually an act of incredible strength.
Oh, so?
Well, think about it. It takes real courage to open up, right? Yeah. To show a part of yourself that isn't perfect. And that courage, it signals trust immediately. It says, I feel safe enough with you to show you this.
Okay, I want to get into the psychology of that. Why does admitting, say, a small insecurity connect faster than showing off how competent you are?
It taps into this idea of perceived privilege. When you admit something small, maybe you're insecure about your career path, or you get really shy sometimes and you frame it like, I don't normally share this.
Ah, okay.
You're essentially creating an exclusive little club, just the two of you. Your partner thinks, Wow, he's showing me the messy bits, the stuff he hides from other people. That feeling of being singled out, of being trusted, it's powerful. It makes them feel incredibly special.
It's like saying, I trust you with this, which makes them feel trustworthy and important. Okay. But how do we actually do this without it turning into, a therapy session or worse, feeling like a calculated tactic? The sources must have specifics.
Well, they do. Very specific. First, you need to choose a meaningful truth. It has to be genuine, but also manageable. You're not dropping a huge bomb or an existential crisis on them. That's not fair.
Right, not a trauma dump.
Exactly. Yeah. Think smaller, more personal, maybe admitting you're shy about, I don't know, your singing voice or some creative thing you do, or maybe a worry that you sometimes take work way too seriously, something relatable but personal.
And the way you frame it is crucial, isn't it? It's not just stating the flaw.
No, absolutely not. You frame it as a result of their positive influence. So instead of just blurting out, I'm a terrible dancer.
Which just sounds kind of negative.
Yeah. You might say something like, I've always been kind of secretly shy about really letting loose or showing my goofy side. But honestly, being around you, your energy, it actually makes me want to try, even if I look ridiculous.
Okay, I see. So you share the vulnerability, but you immediately tie it to her, making it a compliment to her influence. That feels way different.
It lands totally differently. It's vulnerability, yes, but it also validates her. It says, you inspire courage in me. And then there's the logistics, the when and where.
Timing. Right, this isn't something you text.
Definitely not. The sources really emphasize this needs to happen in a quiet, intimate setting. Think late-night conversation after dinner's cleared. Or maybe you're on a long walk, just the two of you. The world feels kind of distant.
Setting the stage.
Exactly. That intentional setting. It amplifies the emotional impact. It makes the moment feel earned, maybe even a bit sacred.
Okay, so let's pull that together. You've got a meaningful, genuine truth. You deliver it in an intimate, quiet moment. And you frame it in a way that complements her influence on you. That sounds incredibly effective. The source material had that example phrase, didn't it? Something like,
yeah, I'm usually pretty guarded, but there's something about your warmth that makes me feel safe. That line. It's a masterclass.
Why does it work so well?
Because it hits 3 points at once.
Right.
1, it shares a vulnerability. I'm guarded. 2, it gives her this deep personal compliment. Your warmth. And 3, it elevates her. You make me feel safe. She walks away from that feeling. Seen, trusted, unique. It's powerful stuff for building emotional safety.
It really lays the groundwork for trust, but we have to circle back to that warning. Because this is so potent, the potential for misuse is huge. What if someone's just pretending to be vulnerable to score points?
That's the critical point. The integrity of this whole principle rests completely on authenticity. If you make up a flaw, if you exaggerate a story, if you're using vulnerability as a tactic.
She'll sense it.
Eventually, yes. Maybe not right away, but people have good BS detectors for this stuff. And because you gained that intimacy under false pretenses based on fake trust, the betrayal, when it comes out, is 10 times worse. It shatters everything. So authenticity isn't optional here. It's mandatory. You share because you genuinely want to connect, not because it's some kind of shortcut.
That need for authenticity for creating genuine safety, it feels like a perfect bridge to the next principle. Because once you've built that initial trust with honesty, you need to reinforce that feeling of value, right?
Exactly. Which brings us to principle 2, the art of total presence.
And in our world, with phones buzzing constantly, endless distractions, I have a feeling this might be the toughest one for people to actually nail down.
It's incredibly difficult, but also incredibly rewarding. It's the gift of undivided attention. And apparently, Casanova was a master at this. He didn't just get, listen politely. He made the person he was with feel like the absolute single center of his entire universe. So reimagine for today, for building lasting love. It's about creating an experience for your partner where she feels so seen, heard, and valued that she can't imagine being anywhere else.
That feeling, it really is irreplaceable, isn't it? I think everyone listening knows that awful feeling on the other side. You're talking to someone and you can just tell they're checking their phone under the table, or worse, they're just waiting for you to stop talking so they can jump in with their story.
Oof, yeah. It makes you feel completely insignificant, dispensable.
Totally.
But the opposite, that feeling of being truly seen, it's intoxicating. The sources break down how simple things like leaning in physically, making real eye contact, asking a question that shows you weren't just hearing the words, but grasping the meaning behind them. These create this overwhelming wave of positive emotion. It makes your partner feel like In that moment, they're the most important person in your world.
We need some concrete examples here, because just nodding along isn't total presence. What does that deeper engagement actually look like in a conversation?
Okay, picture a typical dinner conversation. She's telling you about a frustrating day at work, maybe a project didn't go well. The passive response is just, oh, bummer, that sounds tough.
Right. Standard reply.
But total presence goes deeper. You pause. You really look at her, and you engage the emotion you heard. Something like, wow, when you said that, I could actually feel how disappointed you were. What was the hardest part of that for you? And I mean, what did you learn about yourself going through it?
Okay, huge difference. You're not just acknowledging the facts, you're validating her internal experience. You're trying to process it with her.
Exactly. It's active emotional processing, not just passive listening. Now, how do we actually practice this consistently? Because it takes effort. The sources talk about anchoring her senses and emotions to the positive feeling of being with you.
Anchoring her senses. That sounds almost like engineering joy. Tell me more.
It kind of is. In a good way, it's about actively creating these really strong, memorable sensory connections. You want her brain to associate your presence with unique, positive feelings. Safety, joy.
How? Like specific examples.
Okay, maybe you cook a particular meal together, something with a really distinctive smell that becomes your smell. Or you find a specific song, maybe something obscure that becomes your song, and you only play it during special, quiet moments. Or even developing a unique signature way you hold her hand, something that feels completely irreplaceable.
So you're building this library almost of positive associations in her mind. And they're all tied directly to being with you, physically and emotionally.
Exactly. It reinforces that idea, I can't imagine being anywhere else, because anywhere else doesn't have that smell or that song or that specific touch. It makes your presence feel essential.
That makes sense. What else?
Then you combine that with being unpredictably present. This is about balance. You surprise her with focused attention, maybe when she least expects it, but then you also give her space to actually miss that attention.
So it's not constant attention, but high-quality, surprising attention.
Right. The source example was great for this, sending a quick text message midday, not about like, what's for dinner, but something connecting back, like, hey, I was just thinking about that story you told me yesterday about your grandmother. It really stuck with me.
So it shows she's on your mind even when you're apart and busy. She's not just a distraction you turn to when you have downtime.
Precisely. It says, you're integrated into my thoughts. And then there's the big one, the one we all know we should do but find so hard.
Eliminating distractions? The phone.
The phone. It's the simplest, yet maybe the most profound gift you can give someone today. Put it away. Not just face down on the table where it's still silently demanding attention. Put it out of reach, out of sight. Turn off the TV in the background.
That act alone speaks volumes.
It really does. The sources stress that this undivided attention, it's a priceless gift. It says, louder than any words, right now you are my priority. Nothing else matters.
So when you combine all this, the sensory anchors, the unpredictable presence, the elimination of distractions, you're basically overloading her senses and emotions with positive, high-quality focus.
And that's how she starts to see you as irreplaceable. It's not magic, it's the mechanism. Your total presence creates this environment where she feels incredibly safe, incredibly alive, and naturally her heart attaches to the person who provides that. It fosters this deep sense of belonging.
Where she feels safe enough to be herself, knowing you're her anchor.
Exactly. But okay, let's pump the brakes a little.
Yeah.
Because delivering this level of total presence sounds exhausting, like major burnout potential. Or even could it feel smothering?
Yeah, the line between presence and possession seems important here.
It's absolutely critical. This is demanding. It takes huge cognitive and emotional energy. And if you try to maintain it 24/7 relentlessly, you will burn out. And worse, your partner will feel suffocated. The sources are really clear. Do not confuse total presence with possession.
Okay, what's the key difference there? How do you define it?
Presence is about intentionally focusing on her well-being, her reality, in that moment. Possession is about demanding her time, her attention, her reality conform to yours. It becomes about control.
So presence is a gift, possession is a demand.
Perfectly put. You have to balance that intense focus on her with managing your own stuff, your ego, your stress, your need to control the situation. The second that presence feels like monitoring or like you're keeping tabs, it kills the freedom that love absolutely needs to breathe and thrive. The goal is to make her want to be there, not feel obligated to be there.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. And it leads us really nicely into the next principle, because if you're being selectively honest and you're totally present, there's maybe a risk down the line that things could get comfortable, predictable, maybe even a little boring.
Exactly. The spark needs fuel. How do you maintain that intrigue, that excitement, long term?
Which brings us to principle 3, the power of mystery.
Yes. If principle 1, honesty, is the anchor building trust, and principle 2, presence, is the fuel creating value, then principle 3, mystery, is the spice. It's what keeps things interesting.
Intrigue.
Right. Casanova apparently understood this innately. Mystery keeps your partner engaged, emotionally invested, curious about you over the long haul. And again, it's not about being deceptive or hiding major things. It's about revealing yourself slowly, letting her discover new, genuine layers of you over time.
Like peeling an onion, but hopefully less tear-inducing.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
It's more like layering the revelation, that playful smile that hints at a secret joke, a story you start but leave slightly unfinished, a hint of depth you don't fully spell out right away.
That little bit of ambiguity, you're right, keeps her mind working, right? Keeps her curious, wondering.
Exactly. The sources describe it as turning the process of getting to know you into a constant treasure hunt.
I like that analogy. A treasure hunt.
Because it implies active participation. Curiosity means she's thinking about you when you're not there. She's trying to piece things together, fill in the blanks, imagine the parts of you she hasn't seen yet. That ongoing mental and emotional investment, that's rocket fuel for long-term attraction. If she feels like she's got you all figured out, knows everything, her mind naturally drifts to other puzzles.
Okay, so how do we actually practice this layering? Especially if we've already established trust through that selective honesty in principle 1. How do you introduce mystery without undermining the trust?
Great question. It's all about the pacing of the depth. One key technique is the artful pause.
The artful pause, okay.
So imagine she asks you a really big, profound question about your deepest dreams, maybe your political views, your feelings on long-term commitment, a heavy hitter. Instead of launching into a 5-minute monologue,
You pause.
you pause. But, and this is crucial, how do you do that without seeming like you're dodging the question? Especially if it's a sensitive topic where she really needs clarity.
Right, you don't want it to feel like evasion.
No. The key is you don't deflect. You actually invite her deeper into the process. So instead of just answering directly, the source suggests responding with something like, wow, that's a really big question. And the answer isn't simple. Based on everything you know about me so far, what do you think I'd say?
Okay, that's clever. You're turning it back to her, making her synthesize what she already knows, making her work for it a little.
Exactly. It forces her to engage, to connect the dots. It deepens her investment in finding the answer. She becomes a co-creator in the discovery process, not just a passive recipient of information.
Okay, that's one technique. What else?
Second is sharing in layers. This is about consciously pacing how you reveal different parts of yourself. There should always feel like there's something more to discover just over the horizon.
So not putting all your cards on the table at once.
Right. It requires some intentionality. Maybe one night you share a really poignant childhood memory. Then maybe weeks later, you reveal a slightly embarrassing long-term ambition you've never told anyone. You're constantly feeding that curiosity, making sure the relationship doesn't just settle into a flat, predictable pattern.
So you're always providing new data for her treasure hunt. What about adding surprises that aren't necessarily deep emotional reveals?
That's the third technique, playful unpredictability. This is about keeping her guessing in delightful ways. Small, unexpected gestures.
Like what?
Oh, maybe deciding on a whim to drive to the coast for an hour. Leaving a funny, cryptic note on her pillow. Calling her unexpectedly, not for logistics, but just to ask a completely random, thought-provoking question like, what's the most adventurous thing you want to do in the next 5 years?
Little things that break the routine, keep the dynamic fresh.
Exactly. These small shifts prevents the relationship structure from getting too rigid, too predictable.
Okay, so why does this combination, the honesty from principle 1 and the mystery from principle 3, why does that work so well together? They seem almost contradictory.
It's a beautiful tension, isn't it? The vulnerability and honesty. That establishes you're safe, you're real. That gives her the emotional green light to invest deeply. She knows you're not just playing games.
Okay, safety first.
Then the mystery comes in and confirms you're also complex. Fascinating. Worth exploring further. It gives her the intellectual and emotional reason to stay invested. The mental effort she spends figuring you out shifts. It's not anxious confusion like, is this guy for real? Because the honesty already covered that. It becomes exciting anticipation. What amazing thing will I discover next?
Provided you don't overdo the mystery part. We need that responsibility warning again, right?
Absolutely critical. The sources hammer this point home. Mystery needs to be balanced with really clear signals of your underlying love and commitment. If you lean too hard into ambiguity, especially about the relationship's future or stability,
She'll just feel insecure.
exactly, she'll start feeling disconnected, anxious, uncertain. The goal is intrigue about your character, your layers, your thoughts. It's not confusion about your intentions toward her or the relationship. If she's constantly asking, so, what are we? Because you've been pulling too many artful pauses on commitment questions. You've blown it.
Okay. Intrigue, not confusion. Got it. That leads us perfectly into the final piece, which feels like it has to bring all of this together. Honesty, presence, mystery. How do they sustain themselves?
Through Principle 4, the dance of passion and depth.
Okay. This sounds like the synthesis, the rhythm that keeps it all going long term.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
The sources argue that Casanova's real genius, maybe, in terms of creating lasting impact, even if his relationships weren't permanent, was his ability to be both things. Thrilling, exciting, that's the passion side. And also profound, serious, connecting on a deeper level. That's the depth side.
And it's the alternating between those two.
Yes. That alternating rhythm is the heartbeat. Think about it. Pure, constant excitement. It actually gets boring or exhausting.
Yeah.
Pure, constant depth and seriousness. That could become really heavy, draining.
True. You need both.
You need the dance. The balance ensures the connection feels both exciting, keeps your heart racing, and secure, keeps your soul anchored.
Okay, let's define those two sides more clearly. What does passion look like in this model?
Passion here isn't just about sex, though that can be part of it. It's more about moments of spontaneous joy, lightness, playfulness, emotional high notes.
Example.
Spontaneously putting on some terrible 80s music and dancing badly in the kitchen while making dinner, getting into a playful, competitive board game night, deciding last minute to go on a mini adventure, even if it's just exploring a new neighborhood, moments of deep, uninhibited laughter together. These things make her feel alive, unburdened. They stop the relationship from feeling like a routine chore.
Okay, the fun, light, exciting stuff. And then depth, that's the counterweight.
That's the grounding factor. Depth is about the soulful connection. The conversations where you share core values, maybe underlying fears you don't talk about often, big dreams for the future. It's where you build shared meaning.
How do you initiate that?
The source suggests going beyond surface chat.
Yeah.
Asking those bigger questions that maybe challenge you both. Like, I've always believed real love means showing up even when it's hard, that it takes courage sometimes. What's a core belief about love that our relationship absolutely depends on?
Wow, okay. That's deep. You're basically probing the foundations of the partnership together.
You are. You're testing the emotional and intellectual architecture. Now, the real magic, the sources say, is in the dance itself, the rhythm. How do you actually shift between passion and depth without it feeling jarring or manipulative?
Yeah, the execution seems key.
The technique is described as gently keeping her off balance, but in a positive, engaging way. You alternate the modes, sometimes quite quickly. So maybe you have a night filled with laughter, physical fun, total passion.
Okay.
Then the next morning, over coffee, you intentionally shift gears. You create a quiet moment, look her in the eyes, and share something really heartfelt, maybe vulnerable. That's the depth following passion. Or you do it the other way around. After a really intense, serious conversation about fears or the future, depth, you immediately break the tension by surprising her with tickets to a comedy show or initiating some silly, playful activity.
Passion. Is the effect stronger if the shift is immediate, or is it better with some space between?
The sources suggest the juxtaposition itself is powerful. If you spend, say, a whole weekend just having lighthearted fun, that next deep conversation might land with extra weight because of the contrast. But those truly memorable, almost cinematic moments Casanova was supposedly known for, they often involve the immediate shift.
Like the stargazing example they use.
Exactly. That illustrated it perfectly. You whisk her away for a spontaneous trip to look at the stars. That's passion, adventure. You start out maybe teasing each other, being physically close, playful, still passion. Then, under that huge, quiet, humbling night sky, you intentionally pivot.
Shift gears.
Yeah. You share something deep, maybe an insecurity you rarely voice.
Yeah.
The example's like, looking up at all this,
Yeah.
it makes me feel so small sometimes.
Yeah.
And honestly, I've always wondered if I'm really enough for someone as amazing, as complex as you. Boom. depth.
Wow. That sudden turn from fun adventure to raw vulnerability, that would be incredibly captivating. It anchors the light moment with something profoundly significant.
It really does. And the sources argue why it works so well. She ends up falling in love not just with the fun you or the deep you, but with the whole beautiful, complex package. The oscillation itself becomes part of the attraction. The love feels exciting, keeps her heart racing, and grounding keeps her soul anchored simultaneously. That specific rhythm becomes something she only experiences with you.
Okay, this principle feels like it demands the most out of the person practicing it, more than the others, maybe. It requires serious self-awareness, serious emotional intelligence.
Oh, absolutely.
How do you avoid just faking it, trying to play the role of the passionate guy 1 minute and the deep guy the next?
That's the ultimate warning attached to this principle, maybe to the whole framework. You must have the self-awareness to know what the moment needs. Does the relationship need lightness right now? Does it need grounding? And crucially, you have to be both those things authentically.
Because if you're faking the playfulness
She'll feel it's forced.
or faking the depth.
It'll ring hollow, trying to just play a role in this dance.
Yeah.
It leads straight to burnout for you and a total erosion of trust for her when she realizes your spontaneity was calculated or your deep thoughts were just lines you rehearsed. Your core self needs to be consistent and authentic, even while your expression shifts between light and serious.
Okay. Wow. We started this whole conversation talking about Casanova the seducer, the manipulator.
Right. The ultimate player.
And we've ended up with Casanova, the emotional architect, the guy who, maybe despite himself, understood the recipe for deep, potentially enduring connection.
It's a surprising twist, isn't it? The core takeaway seems to be that his philosophy, if you strip away the manipulative intent and apply it with genuine empathy and a pure heart, actually offers a pretty profound roadmap, not for conquest, but for connection. Real partnership.
So let's recap those 4 pillars quickly. Selective honesty.
When it's authentic and timed well, it builds that foundational trust. Makes your partner feel uniquely chosen.
Total presence.
Given fully, without distraction. Makes her feel incredibly valued, seen, irreplaceable.
Power of mystery.
Balanced carefully with commitment. That maintains the intrigue, keeps her mentally and emotionally invested.
And finally, the dance of passion and depth.
That's the rhythm. The alternation that gives love both the enduring thrill and that deep sense of safety.
It really does flip the script. Casanova's own life, ironically maybe, seems to echo the ultimate lesson here. Real love, the kind that lasts, isn't about power games or control. It's about creating this elevated space, a safe space where both people can be vulnerable, can be joyful, can be their authentic selves together. These principles are just the tools to help build that space.
Exactly. Which means the real requirement here isn't mastering some kind of advanced psychological jujitsu. It's mastering yourself, your own empathy, your ability to be truly present, your courage to actually love fully, intentionally. It's about being the partner who shows up, who surprises with kindness, who captivates because you're genuinely complex and authentic.
Because the idea is, when you master yourself, when you use these tools with that pure heart we talked about, you're not just making someone fall in love, you're co-creating this bond, something that actually strengthens over time because it's built on mutual joy, mutual safety, mutual discovery.
Which brings us right to our final thought, a provocative question for you, the listener. Drawing from the source material's conclusion, if the real Casanova, the historical figure, could somehow listen to this deep dive, this discussion about commitment, self-mastery, enduring bonds, or would he just laugh it off, scoff at the idea of lasting love? Or might he actually recognize, maybe for the first time, the deepest, most complex, most rewarding conquest of all is actually creating that permanent, irreplaceable connection with someone? What do you think?